What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock, what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down why tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day because we have some GDP data coming out. We also have some Fed speakers speaking and some jobless claims data. There's lots of data coming out tomorrow, right before PCE on Friday. I'm going to break down how this all could affect NIO going forward. I'm also going to break down what's going on with the overall market, what the data tells us about NIO, and what I predict to happen for tomorrow. Now, before I break anything down, before I get into any more details, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, whether it's $1 or $100, it's up to you. You're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each valued at up to $3,000. And the best part is, any could be a free NIO share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 6 days. Make sure you check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. NIO is just barely up about 1.5% for the day because we are seeing bulls defending this area right over here. They're defending $10. We could fall a little bit below it, but we oftentimes just get bought right back up. And we are seeing NIO still just barely holding the $10 support. Now, unfortunately, even though it is good to see that happening, the more we start testing this $10 area, the weaker it's going to become because the bears are getting used to taking it very close to that level and even temporarily below that level. Now, bulls do have to continue to step in, but NIO is just trading sideways. It's not really doing too much right now. And I do believe something big is in the works because of how the market is performing. But before I break more details about the technicals, I need to talk about the FOMC minutes that came out today. We were hit with some news that was not necessarily the best for stocks. Basically, this was all just reiterated, by the way. We knew almost all of this before, but what happened is we got more details from the FOMC meeting. Basically, the Fed is still going to continue tightening. The Fed is mentioning that if the jobs market continues to be strong, they could be even more hawkish than before. They mentioned that the 2% target we're actually not even close to it. The Fed still has lots of work. And the biggest thing I saw was that a few members said that they wanted half a point, a 50 basis point rate hike for March. So there are many Fed speakers that are very, very hawkish, many of the Fed members, and they want to be doing whatever is necessary to bring down inflation. But most of this was already mentioned before. It's just that now we know that many of the members are open to the idea of 50 basis points. On top of that, you have to remember the fact that credit card debt is rising again in America. We're actually at a record high right now, and Americans are continuing to borrow more and more money to afford the things they need to buy. And it's very sad to see that happen because everyday Americans are struggling to pay bills to keep up with these crazy high inflationary numbers, and the Fed is as a result continuing to tighten. As the Fed continues to tighten, we know what tends to happen to the overall stock market. It tends to not be the best of things as earnings tend to get hit. And on top of that, we tend to see inverses amongst what happens to stocks and their valuations. Now, on top of that, like I said before, GDP numbers are coming out tomorrow. That's going to be very, very important. It's going to affect how the market ends up moving. So get ready for that in the early morning. Then we also have initial jobless claims coming out. And then on top of that, we also have some Fed speakers all coming out for tomorrow, which tells me maybe the market could make a big move in either direction tomorrow morning. But I do believe that the Fed speakers could maybe slow it down a bit depending on what they say. And everything, in my opinion, is going to tie more into Friday. It's going to be a bigger day as PCE is coming out, another major inflationary measure. Nvidia is on the rise after their earnings. They actually beat on EPS, also on revenue. And right now, that is going to be a little bit better for the tech sector. That could actually improve sentiment to some degree. Retail was buying like crazy last week at the top. And as a result, the market's coming down. This is what tends to happen as we are seeing shorts continuing to pile in and the market is actually decreasing in terms of greed. Right now, greed is at like 66 or 67 or something like that. And when the market hits peak greed, it often means that the market is also topped. And that is likely what already happened, and there is likely more downside to come. For earnings, we also have Alibaba tomorrow. We also have Moderna, Domino's, Wayfair, Wish, a bunch of other ones like Carvana. And then for Friday, not too many massive ones, but we still have some more earnings to come. Now, some good news for NIO is we are seeing the second largest US pension buying into many different EVs out there. And that in turn is actually good for sentiment. We are seeing more of them buying into NIO. I don't think it's a massive buy order though, but they are still buying some more shares, which gives more investors some security knowing the fact that this is a very good perceived value for NIO. 33 million was the volume, still very low volume compared to the average. That's almost 50% less. So NIO is not getting the same buying pressure, the same volume as before, and we are seeing a very moderate price per ratio. Finally, the last but not least thing would be right here. NIO is just trading kind of sideways right now, not really doing too much, and we're just basically waiting on what the market does and what goes on with more data. Right now, NIO is trying to hold this $10 area or very close to it, and we're just going back and forth between 10.3 around there and also 10 flat. I don't see it doing too much for the time being, but it's getting very tight. And we know when stocks get very tight like this, they do have a tendency of making a big move. We're basically stuck between this major channel, which used to be between 10 and then 10.5. Now it's actually contracted, and now it's only between 10 and about 10.3 or 10.25, like around that area. So it's a very small channel. NIO is just stuck in it. I do think NIO is going to push up to about 10.3 tomorrow, maybe trade sideways and continue with this trend. But if the market gets smacked down by the GDP numbers, it could cause NIO to come down as well. Right now, SPY is also in the middle between support and resistance. The major support is around this 13, I'm sorry, not 13, $397 area. That's going to be major support for SPY. Major resistance is around 401. It's actually stronger resistance than 400. So now that we see this channel continuing to hold on SPY, it's going to depend heavily on data. I do think we're going to try to get a small rebound, just trade sideways, and I don't expect too much tomorrow. I know some big data is coming out, but I really want to predict that not too much massive stuff will happen. I think it's going to tie more into the PCE report. Now, on the VIX, it is still trading like this. It still is trying to hold above the 22 area. That in turn is a pretty decent sign, but there is this gap right over here. I don't know if it's going to come down to fill this gap and the market gets a bounce, or if it's going to just not worry about it and just keep going up, because the gap doesn't have to get filled immediately. Now, for NIO, now that I went over the key support and resistance, what do I predict is going to happen? I'm predicting that NIO is going to get a nice push up thanks to the NASDAQ trying to hold. NIO is going to try to hold at 10.3. It might even break to about the 10.4s, maybe almost 10.5, more like 10.47. And then it's going to trade sideways from there, decline a bit thanks to the Fed speaker, and still close very flat because, like I said, guys, it's just basically stuck going back and forth and back and forth. I think it's going to re-enter this channel and still close very flat, maybe somewhat green, just barely in the green. It's going to depend on what the Fed speakers say later for tomorrow, but that's basically what I have for this video. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a great rest of the day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, because the long-term future is still incredibly bright, and peace out.